11:43 p.m. The doors didn't open. They exploded. A Navy SEAL admiral crashed through on a stretcher, 5 bullet holes tearing through his uniform, blood everywhere. Surgeons screamed over each other. "We're losing him!" Nothing worked. Then the quiet nurse everyone ignored stepped forward. Mara Holt, the rookie they never trusted. She pressed 2 fingers to his neck and whispered, "Not yet." Her hands moved like lightning, a technique no civilian knew, one she learned in Helmand province. The monitor spiked, his vitals stabilized. The room froze. 10 minutes later, they fired her for breaking protocol. She walked out in silence. That's when 10 black SUVs screeched to a stop in front of her. Agents stepped out. Not for the Admiral. For her. Because she wasn't just a nurse. She was the last survivor of a classified unit wiped out overseas. And tonight, someone wanted her silenced. Before we begin, take 2 seconds to like this video and comment where you're watching from so I can see how far this story travels. Your support truly means everything. 11:43 p.m., Riverside Memorial Hospital, emergency entrance. The paramedics hit the automatic doors at full speed, one hand gripping the stretcher rail, the other pressing an oxygen mask over the patient's face. The wheels rattled violently across the tile. People scattered. A janitor dropped his mop. A family waiting for test results jumped back against the wall. "GSWs to the chest and abdomen," the lead paramedic shouted. "BP 70/40 and dropping. Pulse thready. We've shocked him twice already." The uniform was what made everyone stop cold. Navy SEAL dress blues. Torn open. 5 jagged holes punched through the fabric. Blood soaked into the tan material, dripping off the stretcher and leaving a red trail across the floor like breadcrumbs leading back to whatever hell he'd come from. A nurse near the triage desk gasped. "Is that? Trauma 3 now," someone barked. The stretcher crashed through the double doors into the trauma bay. Inside, controlled chaos erupted instantly. Nurses descended from all sides. Machines beeped in frantic discord. Surgical trays clattered. Gloves snapped. Voices overlapped into a wall of noise. "Get a central line in. Where's the ONEG?" "Someone page Dr. Renwick. Tell him it's federal." "I need suction here. He's got blood in the airway." A tall man in scrubs shoved through the crowd, face hard, jaw tight. Dr. Victor Renwick, chief trauma surgeon, 15 years in the ER, 3 combat tours as a field consultant, the kind of man who didn't flinch at anything. Except maybe this. He leaned over the Admiral, hands already moving, cutting away the uniform. The wounds were deep, precise, professional. Whoever shot him knew exactly where to aim. "Get me a full workup. Chest x-ray, ultrasound, type, and cross. And someone find out who authorized bringing a federal asset here without a secure escort." A nurse hesitated. "Sir," the paramedic said. "I don't care what they said. This man should have gone to a military facility. Not here." Through the chaos, someone slipped into the room unnoticed. Mara Holt, 26 years old, barely 8 months into her nursing career, assigned to med passes, vitals, wound dressings, tasks that didn't require trust, tasks they gave to people they didn't respect. She moved quietly along the back wall, hands folded, eyes tracking every motion in the room. She wasn't supposed to be here. Trauma cases were for senior staff only. But something pulled her forward anyway, something old, something she'd buried, the way his chest rose in shallow gasps, the way the blood pooled in specific patterns around the entry wounds, the way his pulse flickered on the monitor, weak, inconsistent, dying. It wasn't random, it was familiar. One of the residents glanced up and saw her. "Who let the rookie in here?" Dr. Renwick didn't even look. "Get her out." Mara didn't move. Another nurse stepped toward her. "Mara, you need to leave. This isn't—" "His airway's compromised," Mara said quietly. The room didn't stop. No one heard her. Or if they did, they ignored her. Dr. Renwick barked orders. "Intubate. Now. Where's respiratory?" "They're coming," someone called back. "We don't have time. Someone get the tube in." A junior resident fumbled with the equipment, hands shaking. The Admiral's oxygen saturation dropped. 89. 86. 83. Mara's fingers twitched, her breath steadied. Her body remembered what her mind tried to forget. A field hospital in Helmand province. A teammate choking on his own blood. Her commanding officer shouting, "Holt, you're the only one who can do this." She stepped forward. Dr. Renwick's head snapped toward her. I said get out. His trachea's deviated, Mara said, voice calm but firm. You're trying to intubate the wrong angle. Excuse me? He's got a tension pneumothorax. You need to decompress before you intubate or you'll collapse the other lung. Renwick's face flushed red. Are you seriously telling me how to... The monitor screamed. The Admiral's pressure dropped to 60/30. Mara didn't wait for permission. She moved to the bedside, placed 2 fingers on the Admiral's neck, adjusted the angle of his head, and pressed down on a specific point just below his collarbone. A technique she learned overseas, one that wasn't in any civilian textbook. The room went silent. The monitor beeped once, twice, then steadied into a rhythm. Renwick stared at her like she'd just performed a magic trick. What the hell did you just do? Mara stepped back, heart pounding, hands trembling. She didn't want to explain, didn't want to remember, didn't want anyone asking questions she couldn't answer. But the Admiral's chest rose and fell. His oxygen levels climbed. 91, 94, 90, 97. One of the nurses whispered, How did she... I don't care how, Renwick snapped. He turned on Mara, eyes blazing. You had no authorization to touch him. Do you understand what you just did? This man is a federal asset. You could have killed him. I saved him, Mara said quietly. You violated protocol. He was dying. That's not your call to make. A senior nurse grabbed Mara's arm, pulling her toward the door. You need to leave, now. Mara looked back at the Admiral. His face was still pale, still fragile, but alive. She remembered another time she'd seen that face. Dusty, covered in blood, shouting her name while explosions tore through the night. Holt, stay with me. Don't you dare close your eyes. She blinked hard and let the nurse pull her out of the room. 15 minutes later, Mara stood in the hospital director's office. Patricia Vance sat behind the desk, arms folded, expression cold. Dr. Renwick stood beside her, face still flushed with anger. You were explicitly told not to enter that trauma bay, Vance said. I heard someone was critical, Mara replied. I thought they might need help. You're a probationary nurse. You don't get to make that decision. I made the right call. Renwick slammed his hand on the desk. You endangered a federal patient. You performed a procedure you weren't cleared for. You ignored direct orders from senior staff. I saved his life. That's not the point. Then what is? Vance leaned forward. The point, Ms. Holt, is that you don't belong here. You've been a problem since day one. You don't follow protocols. You don't respect authority. And tonight you crossed a line we can't ignore. Mara's throat tightened. So you're firing me? Effective immediately. She stared at them. No surprise, no shock, just a hollow ache she'd felt too many times before. She placed her badge on the desk and walked out. Time. The night air hit her like a slap. Cold, sharp, unforgiving. Mara stood in the parking lot, still wearing her scrubs, still stained with the Admiral's blood. She pulled her jacket tighter and started walking toward her car. Then the ground vibrated. Engines. Heavy ones. She turned. 10 black SUVs swung into the parking lot in perfect formation. Headlights blazing, windows tinted, moving like a military convoy. All 10 vehicles stopped at once. Doors opened in unison. Men in black suits stepped out. Tactical earpieces. Concealed weapons. Faces carved from stone. Mara's pulse spiked. Inside the hospital, nurses pressed against the glass doors, watching. Someone whispered, Did the Admiral die? But Mara knew better. They weren't here for a body. They were here for her. A man stepped forward, tall, mid-40s, clean-shaven, badge clipped to his belt, no agency markings. Mara Holt, he said. She didn't respond. He stopped a few feet away, studying her like she was a puzzle he'd been trying to solve. We've been looking for you. Her voice came out steady, calm. I don't know what you're talking about. You saved the Admiral tonight. I did my job. You saved him in Helmand Province, too. The world tilted. Mara's breath caught. Her hands clenched into fists. The man stepped closer. You were Petty Officer Mara Holt, SEAL Combat Medic, Unit 13. Your entire team was killed in an ambush 4 years ago. You were the only survivor. She couldn't breathe. You disappeared before the debrief, he continued. Changed your name, buried your records. Became a civilian nurse. We assumed you wanted to be left alone. I did. Until tonight. Mara's throat burned. What do you want? The man glanced back toward the hospital. The Admiral was shot by someone who knew exactly where to aim, someone who's done this before, someone who has access to classified intel. So find them. We did. He pulled a tablet from his jacket and turned it toward her. A photo appeared on the screen. A man in surgical scrubs, mask pulled low, cap hiding most of his face. But the eyes. Mara recognized those eyes. No, she whispered. Dr. Victor Renwick, the agent said, chief trauma surgeon, former military consultant. He was stationed at your forward operating base 2 days before your unit was ambushed. Mara's legs nearly gave out. He wasn't studying battlefield triage, the agent continued. He was mapping your patrol routes, learning your patterns, feeding intel to the people who wanted your CO dead. Her voice cracked. That's impossible. He coordinated the ambush in Helmand, and tonight he tried to finish what he started. Mara stared at the photo. The pieces snapped together with sickening clarity. The way Renwick screamed at her to leave the trauma bay, the way he fired her immediately after she stabilized the Admiral, the way he looked at her, not with anger, but with fear. Because she was the only one left who could recognize him. The agent's voice softened. Your entire unit didn't die because of bad luck, Mara. They died because someone sold them out. And that someone just tried to kill the one man who could identify him. Mara's hands shook. Her breath came in shallow gasps. We need your help, the agent said. You're the only person alive who knows how the first attack happened. And you're the only one who can help us stop the next one. She looked up at him, tears burning in her eyes. What are you talking about? The agent's expression darkened. Renwick disappeared from the hospital 3 minutes ago, and the Admiral just crashed again. Mara's heart stopped. He's not running, the agent said quietly. He's hunting. Behind them, alarms blared inside the hospital. Voices shouted. People ran toward the trauma wing. The agent grabbed Mara's arm. If you want justice for your team, if you want the Admiral to survive, you need to come with us. Right now. Mara stared at the hospital doors, at the life she thought she'd left behind, at the ghost she tried so hard to bury. Then she looked at the agent and nodded. Let's go. The SUV door slammed shut behind her, cutting off the chaos outside. Inside was warm, quiet, the kind of quiet that felt wrong after everything that just happened. Mara sat between two agents, both stone-faced, both armed. The lead agent climbed into the front passenger seat and tapped the driver's shoulder. The convoy moved as one unit, peeling out of the parking lot with military precision. She stared through the tinted window as the hospital shrank behind them. Nurses still crowded the glass entrance. Someone held up a phone, recording. Dr. Renwick stood near the corner of the building, half hidden in shadow, watching the SUVs disappear. Mara's stomach twisted. Where are we going? She asked. Secure location, the lead agent said without turning around. Somewhere we can talk without eyes on us. The Admiral is being transferred to a federal medical facility as we speak. They'll keep him stable until we neutralize the threat. You mean until you catch Renwick? The agent didn't answer. Mara leaned back against the seat, heart still hammering. Her hands trembled in her lap. She pressed them together, trying to still the shaking, but it didn't work. It never worked. 4 years. 4 years of running. 4 years of pretending she was someone else. 4 years of convincing herself that if she stayed quiet, stayed invisible, the past would stay buried. And now it was sitting in the front seat, staring her in the face. The convoy turned onto an empty access road, away from the city lights, into industrial darkness. Warehouses lined both sides of the street, most of them abandoned. One had lights flickering to life as they approached. The gates slid open automatically. The SUVs rolled inside and the gates closed behind them with a heavy clang that echoed through the night. Mara stepped out onto cracked pavement. The warehouse loomed ahead, massive and cold. Inside, it had been transformed into something out of a spy movie. Screens everywhere, satellite feeds, maps, encrypted messages scrolling in real time. At least a dozen agents moved through the space with purpose, earpieces buzzing, keyboards clicking. One of them looked up when Mara entered, then another, then all of them. They didn't stare. They didn't whisper. But she felt the weight of their attention like a physical thing pressing against her chest. The lead agent gestured toward a table in the center of the room. This way. Mara followed, boots scuffing against the concrete floor. On the table lay a spread of documents, medical charts, bullet casings, surveillance photos. And in the center, a single image that made her stop cold. Her unit. All of them. Standing together in full gear, smiling, alive. Taken the day before they died. Her throat closed. "Sit," the agent said gently. She sat. Her legs felt like they might give out anyway. The agent pulled up a chair across from her. He set a tablet on the table and opened a file. "My name is Agent Darius Kane. I've been tracking this case for 3 years." Mara didn't look up from the photo. "What case?" "The ambush that killed your unit." She flinched. Kane leaned forward, voice low. "The official report says your convoy was hit by an improvised explosive device, followed by small arms fire. Insurgents. Wrong place. Wrong time. Bad luck." "That's what they told me." "It was a lie." Mara's hands clenched into fists on the table. "How do you know?" "Because your commanding officer, Lieutenant Grayson Pierce, was about to expose a weapons contract worth $3 billion. A deal between a private military contractor and a foreign government. A deal that would have made a lot of powerful people very rich. So they killed him." "They killed all of you," Kane corrected, "or tried to." Mara finally looked up. "Who's they?" Kane tapped the tablet. A name appeared on the screen. "Sentinel Defense Solutions, private military contractor," Kane explained. "They provide security, logistics, and tactical support in conflict zones, but they also deal in weapons sales, intel brokering, and things that don't make it into their annual reports." "And Renwick worked for them?" "Still does. He was their inside man. A surgeon with military clearance who could move through bases without raising suspicion. He fed them intel on troop movements, supply routes, patrol schedules." Mara's breath hitched, and when Lieutenant Pierce found out, Renwick set up the ambush. The room spun. Mara pressed her palms flat against the table to steady herself. "You're telling me my entire unit died because they were in the way of a business deal?" Kane nodded. "I'm sorry." "Sorry doesn't bring them back." "No, but justice might." Mara looked at him. Her eyes burned, but no tears came. She'd cried them all out years ago. "What do you need from me?" Kane slid another photo across the table. The Admiral, unconscious, covered in blood. "He was there that night. He pulled you out of the wreckage before the secondary explosion. Do you remember?" She did. Barely. Through the smoke and fire and screaming, she remembered strong arms lifting her, a voice shouting her name, the smell of burning flesh and diesel fuel. "He saw Renwick that night," Kane continued, "saw him talking to the insurgents right before the attack. But he was too injured to report it immediately. By the time he recovered, Renwick had already covered his tracks. No evidence, no witnesses, just the Admiral's word against a decorated surgeon. So why come after him now?" "Because the Admiral started digging. He reopened the investigation 6 months ago, started asking questions, making noise. Sentinel couldn't let that continue." Mara's jaw tightened. "So they sent Renwick to finish him." "Exactly." She stared at the photo of her unit, faces she'd tried so hard to forget. Garrett, Silva, Torres, Martinez, all of them gone. All of them betrayed by someone they trusted. "What do you need me to do?" she asked again. Kane pulled up another file. "Walk us through the night of the ambush. Every detail you remember, every instinct that felt wrong, anything that didn't add up." Mara closed her eyes. She didn't want to go back there, didn't want to relive it, but she knew she didn't have a choice. "We were on a routine supply run," she began. 3 vehicles, 12 personnel. Lieutenant Pierce was in the lead Humvee. I was in the second one with Silva and Garrett." Kane nodded, taking notes. "What time did you leave base?" 2100 hours. We were supposed to be back by midnight." "Did anyone know your route?" "Command did. And anyone with access to the mission log, including Renwick." Mara opened her eyes. "He was at the base that week. Said he was consulting on field trauma protocols. We didn't think anything of it. He was friendly, professional. He even ate with us a couple times." "And the night of the ambush?" Mara's breath shook. "We were about 20 minutes out from base when the lead vehicle hit the IED. The explosion flipped the Humvee. Lieutenant Pierce and his driver were killed instantly. The rest of us scrambled out to provide aid, and that's when the gunfire started." She could still hear it, The crack of rifles, the shouts, the screams. We tried to return fire, but they had the high ground. We were sitting ducks. Garrett took a round to the chest. Silva got hit in the leg. I was trying to stop the bleeding when the second explosion went off. Kane leaned forward. Second explosion? Behind us, someone had planted charges along the road. They weren't just ambushing us, they were trapping us. Kane exchanged a glance with another agent. That level of coordination doesn't come from insurgents. That's professional. I know, Mara whispered. I've always known. What happened next? I blacked out. When I came to, I was in a field hospital. They told me everyone else was dead. They told me I was lucky. Her voice cracked. I didn't feel lucky. Kane gave her a moment. Then he asked, Did you see Renwick after the attack? Once, at the hospital. He came to check on me, asked how I was feeling, asked if I remembered anything. What did you tell him? I lied. Said I didn't remember anything after the first explosion. Why? Mara's eyes hardened. Because the way he looked at me, it wasn't concern. It was calculation, like he was trying to figure out if I was a threat. Kane nodded slowly. Smart. If he thought you knew something, he would have killed you then. I realized that, so I disappeared and became Mara Holt. I needed a fresh start, somewhere no one would ask questions. Kane closed the tablet. Until tonight. Until tonight, she echoed. Another agent approached the table, younger, maybe mid-20s, with sharp eyes that didn't match his baby face. Sir, we pulled the hospital's security footage from the past 72 hours. Kane stood. Show me. They moved to a bank of monitors on the far wall. The agent pulled up the footage. Mara watched over their shoulders, pulse quickening. The screen showed the hospital's main entrance. Doctors and nurses coming and going. Ambulances arriving. Normal chaos. Then the timestamp hit 2300 hours last night. A black sedan pulled up to the service entrance. No plates, tinted windows. A figure stepped out wearing civilian clothes and a baseball cap pulled low. Freeze it, Kane said. The image paused. The figure's face was mostly hidden, but the build, the walk, the way he carried himself. That's Renwick, Mara said. Kane nodded. Keep going. The footage continued. Renwick entered through the service door, badge in hand like he belonged there. He moved through the hallways with purpose, checking his phone, glancing at cameras. He knew exactly where they were. He disappeared into a storage room and emerged 5 minutes later in full scrubs. He was already inside, Kane muttered, already planning. The footage jumped ahead. 2340 hours. Renwick in the pharmacy. Alone. He unlocked a controlled substance cabinet, removed 3 vials, and slipped them into his pocket. Mara's stomach twisted. What was he taking? The young agent checked the log. Potassium chloride. High dose. Enough to stop a heart in under a minute if injected directly. But the Admiral was shot, Mara said. Why would he need... Kane's expression darkened. Because the shooting was meant to get him into the hospital. Renwick needed access. Once the Admiral was inside, vulnerable, sedated, he could finish the job and make it look like complications from the GSWs. Mara's hands balled into fists. He was going to kill him on the operating table. Except you stopped him. The footage continued. 0100 hours. Renwick in the hallway outside Trauma 3, watching through the window, watching Mara work. His expression was cold, calculating. Then his phone buzzed. He checked it, and his face changed, hardened. He turned and walked away. Where'd he go? Kane asked. The young agent switched cameras. Service elevator, down to the basement. The screen showed Renwick exiting the elevator, moving through narrow maintenance corridors, and finally pushing through a door into the parking garage. The sedan was waiting. He climbed in. The car drove away. Kane cursed. We lost him. No plates, the young agent said. No registration. It's a ghost car. Mara stared at the screen. He's coming back. How do you know? Because he's not finished. He won't leave loose ends. Kane pulled out his phone and dialed. I need eyes on Riverside Memorial. Full perimeter. No one gets in or out without clearance. He hung up and turned to Mara. You're staying here. Like hell I am. He wants you dead, Mara. You're a witness. You're a liability. I'm also the only person who knows how he operates. That doesn't mean... An alarm blared through the warehouse. Red lights flashed. Every agent in the room snapped to attention. Someone shouted from across the floor. Sir, we've got a breach at the hospital. Multiple explosions. East Wing. ICU. Kane's face went pale. The Admiral. Mara's heart stopped. He moved him. We transferred him to the ICU an hour ago. Secure floor. Armed guards. It doesn't matter. Mara grabbed Kane's arm. He'll find a way. He always does. Kane didn't hesitate. Move out. All units. Now. The warehouse erupted into motion. Agents grabbed gear, weapons, vests. The convoy engines roared to life outside. Mara ran for the nearest SUV. Kane grabbed her shoulder. I said, I'm going, she snapped. You want him stopped? I'm your best chance. Kane stared at her for 3 seconds. Then he nodded. Stay behind me. Don't do anything stupid. No promises. They climbed into the lead vehicle. The convoy tore out of the warehouse, sirens wailing, lights blazing. The streets blurred past. Mara's pulse hammered in her ears. Her hands shook. She pressed them against her thighs, trying to steady herself, but the adrenaline made it impossible. The hospital came into view. Smoke poured from the east wing. Fire trucks surrounded the building. Police had cordoned off the entire block. People ran in every direction, screaming, crying, holding each other. The SUVs screeched to a stop. Kane and his team poured out, weapons drawn. Mara followed, heart in her throat. A firefighter tried to stop them. You can't go in there. The building's not stable. Kane flashed his badge. Federal agents, where's the ICU? 4th floor, east wing. But they didn't wait for him to finish. Inside, the hospital was chaos. Alarms screamed. Sprinklers rained down. Staff evacuated patients on stretchers, wheelchairs, in their arms. The air smelled like smoke and chemicals. Kane led the way to the stairwell. They climbed fast, taking 2 steps at a time. Mara's lungs burned, but she didn't slow down. 4th floor, the ICU. The hallway was dark. Emergency lights cast everything in red. Water dripped from the ceiling. Debris littered the floor. At the end of the hall, 2 bodies lay motionless. Guards, both shot in the head. Kane knelt beside them, checked for a pulse. Nothing. Mara's breath caught. He's already here. They moved forward, weapons raised. Kane signaled for his team to spread out. Mara stayed close, heart pounding so hard it hurt. They reached the Admiral's room. The door hung off its hinges. Inside, the Admiral lay in bed, unconscious. His monitors beeped steadily. An IV dripped into his arm. But standing beside him, syringe in hand, was Renwick. He looked up when they entered. No surprise, no fear, just cold calculation. Hello, Mara, he said. Kane raised his weapon. Step away from the patient. Renwick didn't move. I don't think so. You're surrounded. There's no way out. There's always a way out. Renwick held up the syringe. Potassium chloride. Injected directly into his heart, he'll be dead in 30 seconds. You shoot me, my hand twitches, the plunger goes down, and he dies anyway. Kane's jaw tightened. What do you want? Safe passage, a car, no pursuit. Not happening, Renwick smiled. Then I guess he dies. Mara stepped forward. You don't have to do this. Renwick's eyes locked on hers. You should have died in Helmand. I made sure of it, but somehow you crawled out of that wreckage like a cockroach. You killed my unit. I did my job. Your job was to save lives. My job, Renwick said coldly, was to protect an investment. Your CEO was going to expose a deal worth billions. He had to be eliminated. The rest of you were collateral. Mara's hands trembled with rage. They trusted you, and that's why it was so easy. Kane took a step closer. Put the syringe down. I don't think so. You're not walking out of here. Then neither is he. Renwick moved the needle closer to the Admiral's chest. Mara's mind raced. She needed a distraction, something to make him hesitate. Anything. The Admiral saw you, she said suddenly. That night in Helmand, he saw you talking to the insurgents. Renwick paused. So he's been carrying that for 4 years. He reopened the investigation because he knew. He knew you were dirty. And now he'll die knowing he failed. No. Mara's voice hardened. He'll die knowing you're scared. Renwick's expression flickered, just for a second. I'm not scared of anything. Then why are you here? Why not just disappear? You could have run, could have left the country, but you came back to finish this. Because loose ends get people killed. No. Mara stepped closer. Because you're terrified. Terrified that if I talk, your entire operation falls apart. Sentinel burns, your bosses burn, and you burn with them. Renwick's grip on the syringe tightened. Shut up. You're not doing this for them. You're doing this to save yourself. I said shut up. You're a coward. Renwick's face twisted with rage. I'm a survivor. You're a murderer. And you're next. He moved the needle toward the Admiral's chest. Mara didn't think. She just moved. She lunged forward, grabbing Renwick's wrist, twisting it back. The syringe fell from his hand and clattered to the floor. Renwick slammed his elbow into her ribs. Pain exploded through her side. She stumbled back, gasping. Kane fired. The shot echoed through the room. Renwick dropped to his knees, clutching his shoulder. Blood seeped through his fingers. Agents swarmed him, forcing him to the ground, cuffing his wrists. Mara collapsed against the wall, breath ragged, pain radiating through her chest. Kane knelt beside her. You okay? She nodded, unable to speak. The Admiral's monitors beeped steadily. Still alive, still fighting. Renwick lay on the floor, face pressed against the tile, breathing hard. He turned his head toward Mara, blood trickling from his mouth. This isn't over, he rasped. Mara met his eyes. Yes, it is. Kane grabbed Renwick by the collar and hauled him to his feet. Get him out of here. Two agents dragged Renwick out of the room. He didn't resist, didn't fight, just stared at Mara as they pulled him away. Mara slid down the wall, sitting on the floor, head tilted back. Her ribs throbbed, her hands shook. But the Admiral was alive. Renwick was in custody. It was over. Except it wasn't. Because across the room, on the small table beside the Admiral's bed, Renwick's phone buzzed. Kane picked it up. His face went white. What? Mara asked. Kane turned the screen toward her. A text message. One line. Phase 2 initiated. Target, Holt. Mara's blood ran cold. Kane's radio crackled. Sir, we've got movement outside the hospital. Multiple vehicles, armed personnel. They're not ours. Kane grabbed his weapon. How many? At least 20, maybe more. Mara stood, ignoring the pain in her ribs. Sentinel? They're coming for you, Kane said. Then let them come. Kane stared at her. You're not serious. They killed my unit. They tried to kill the Admiral, and now they want me dead. Her voice was ice. I'm done running. Outside, engines roared, tires screeched, gunfire erupted, and Mara knew the real fight was just beginning. The gunfire outside wasn't random. It was coordinated, disciplined, military. Kane grabbed his radio. All units fall back to the ICU. Establish a perimeter. No one gets through. Mara moved to the window, staying low. Below, black tactical vehicles ringed the hospital. Men in body armor poured out, weapons raised, moving in formation. They weren't police. They weren't federal agents. They were private contractors, Sentinel's cleanup crew. How many? Kane asked, joining her at the window. 20, maybe 25? Mara's jaw tightened. And they're not here to arrest anyone. Kane's radio crackled. Sir, they're breaching the south entrance, armed with automatic weapons. Hospital security is falling back. Evacuate all patients from this floor, Kane ordered. Get them down the north stairwell. Move. Agents scrambled. Nurses appeared, faces pale with terror, pushing beds toward the exits. The Admiral's monitors beeped steadily, oblivious to the chaos. Kane turned to Mara. We need to move him. He's barely stable. Moving him could... Staying here will kill him. Mara looked at the Admiral. His face was still too pale, his breathing shallow. But Kane was right. If Sentinel reached this floor, they'd kill everyone in it. All right, she said, but I'm going with him. Kane didn't argue. Help me disconnect the monitors. They worked fast. Mara grabbed the portable oxygen tank, checked the flow rate, and secured it to the bed rail. Kane unplugged the IV pump and switched it to battery power. Two agents moved to either end of the bed. On 3, Kane said. 1, 2, 3. They lifted. The bed rolled toward the door. Gunfire erupted below them, closer now. Echoing through the stairwells, Kane's radio screamed with overlapping voices. They're in the building. Repeat, hostiles in the building. Second floor secured, moving to 3. We've got wounded. Need medical at the south entrance. Mara's pulse hammered. She pushed the bed faster, ignoring the pain in her ribs. They reached the north stairwell. The door hung open. Inside, patients crowded the stairs, moving slowly, staff trying to keep them calm. Too slow. Kane grabbed his radio. Clear the stairwell. We're coming through. They maneuvered the bed through the door. The wheels caught on the threshold. Mara shoved harder, and it lurched forward. Behind them, the elevator dinged. Mara's blood froze. The door slid open. 3 men stepped out. Black tactical gear, rifles raised, faces covered by balaclavas. Kane didn't hesitate. He fired. The first man dropped. The second dove behind a supply cart. The third opened fire, bullets tearing through the hallway. Mara threw herself over the Admiral's bed, shielding him. Plaster exploded from the walls. Glass shattered. The air filled with dust and smoke. Kane returned fire, advancing, keeping himself between the shooters and the bed. Get him downstairs, now. 2 agents grabbed the bed and pulled it into the stairwell. Mara followed, glancing back. Kane crouched behind a pillar, reloading, face set in grim determination. The stairwell was chaos. People screaming, staff shouting, patients crying. Mara pushed through them, trying not to knock anyone over. Move! Move! One of the agents yelled. 3rd floor, 2nd floor. The bed rattled down each landing, wheels bouncing, the Admiral's body shifting. Mara kept one hand on his chest, monitoring his breathing. They hit the ground floor. The lobby stretched ahead, filled with evacuees, police, paramedics. Emergency lights flashed red and blue through the windows. Kane appeared behind them, bleeding from a cut above his eye. Keep moving. They're right behind us. They pushed through the crowd toward the main entrance. Outside, more tactical vehicles blocked the street, but these had federal markings, backup. A woman in a suit stepped forward, mid-40s, short dark hair, badge on her belt. Agent Kane? Director Walsh, Kane said, breathing hard. Good timing. We intercepted Sentinel's communications 20 minutes ago. What's the situation? Hostiles inside, at least 15, armed with automatic weapons. We need to lock down the building and extract the Admiral. Walsh nodded. My team will handle the building. Get him to the transport. An armored ambulance sat at the curb, back doors open, paramedics waiting. They loaded the Admiral inside. Mara climbed in after him. Kane grabbed her arm. Where do you think you're going? With him. Mara, they want me dead, remember? Staying here makes me a target. Everyone around me becomes collateral. Kane's jaw worked. He knew she was right. Fine, he said, but we're coming with you. The ambulance doors slammed shut. The engine roared to life. Through the small window, Mara watched the hospital recede, smoke still pouring from the east wing. Inside the ambulance, the paramedic checked the Admiral's vitals. BP's dropping, oxygen sat at 89. Mara moved beside him. Increase the flow to 6 liters. Check his lung sounds. The paramedic stared at her. Who are you? Someone who knows what she's doing. Check his lungs. The paramedic hesitated, then grabbed his stethoscope. He listened, face tightening. Decreased on the right side, could be a pneumothorax. From the explosion, Mara said. He needs a chest tube. We don't have the equipment for... Mara grabbed the emergency kit mounted to the wall, tore it open, and pulled out a needle decompression kit. This'll buy us time. She didn't wait for approval. She located the second intercostal space, cleaned the site, and inserted the needle with practiced precision. Air hissed out. The Admiral's oxygen levels climbed immediately. The paramedic stared. How did you... Later, Mara said. The ambulance swerved hard. Mara grabbed the rail to steady herself. Through the front windshield, she saw it, a black SUV cutting them off. Kane cursed. Hold on! The driver yanked the wheel. The ambulance fishtailed, tires screaming. The SUV clipped their rear bumper, sending them into a spin. Mara crashed into the wall. Pain exploded through her shoulder. The paramedic fell, equipment scattering. The Admiral's bed slammed against the side, monitors sparking. The ambulance stopped. For 3 seconds, no one moved. Then gunfire shattered the back windows. Get down, Kane shouted. Mara threw herself over the Admiral again. Bullets tore through the ambulance, punching holes in the walls, shattering equipment. Kane returned fire through the broken window. We need to move. Now! The driver was slumped over the wheel, not moving. Kane kicked open the side door and dragged Mara out. Two agents pulled the Admiral's bed, wheels catching on debris. They were in an alley, narrow, dark, dumpsters on both sides. The black SUV blocked one end. Another vehicle screeched to a stop at the other, trapped. Men poured out of both vehicles. 8, maybe 10, all armed. Kane's team formed a defensive circle around the Admiral's bed. 4 agents, 5 including Kane, against 10 contractors with automatic weapons. Not good odds. "Federal agents," Kane shouted. "Drop your weapons." The contractors didn't respond. They just advanced, slow and methodical. Kane fired a warning shot. "I said drop them." One of the contractors raised his rifle. Kane shot him in the leg. The man screamed and went down. The others opened fire. The alley erupted into chaos. Muzzle flashes lit the darkness. Bullets ricocheted off brick walls. Kane's team returned fire, trying to hold the line, but they were outnumbered and outgunned. One agent went down, then another. Kane grabbed Mara's arm. "We can't hold them." "Then we run." "With a patient on a bed? You have a better idea?" A contractor broke through the line, charging straight at them. Kane shot him twice in the chest. He dropped, but 2 more took his place. Mara's mind raced. They needed cover. They needed an exit. They needed... She saw it, a door, half hidden behind a dumpster, rusted, padlocked. "There," she said, pointing. Kane looked. "That door's locked." "Not for long." Mara grabbed a discarded brick, ran to the door, and smashed the padlock. It didn't break. She hit it again. Harder. The metal bent. Third hit. It snapped. She yanked the door open. Inside was darkness. Stairs leading down. "Move!" she shouted. Kane and his remaining agents pushed the bed toward the door. The wheels hit the threshold and stuck. Mara grabbed one end, Kane the other, and they lifted. The bed scraped through. They were in a basement, old, abandoned, pipes overhead, water dripping. The smell of mold thick in the air. Kane slammed the door shut and wedged a metal bar through the handles. Fists pounded on the other side. Voices shouted, then gunfire. Bullets punched through the wood, splintering it. "They're coming through," one of the agents said. Kane scanned the basement. "We need another exit." Mara spotted it. A tunnel at the far end. Narrow. Low ceiling, but open. This way. They ran, pushing this bed ahead of them. The wheels rattled over uneven concrete. Behind them, the door exploded open. Boots thundered down the stairs. The tunnel branched. Left or right? Kane hesitated. Mara went left. The tunnel sloped downward, getting narrower, the ceiling lower. Mara had to duck. The Admiral's bed barely fit. Behind them, flashlight beams cut through the darkness. Voices echoed. "They went this way!" "Split up. Cover both tunnels." Mara's heart hammered. They couldn't outrun them. Not with the bed. Not in this confined space. They reached another door. This one wasn't locked. Mara shoved it open. Light flooded in. They stumbled into a parking garage. Underground, mostly empty. A few cars scattered across the lot. Kane grabbed his radio. "This is Kane. We need immediate extraction. Underground garage. Northwest corner. Multiple hostiles in pursuit." Static. He tried again. "Anyone copy?" Nothing. "We're too deep," one of the agents said. "Signal can't reach." Kane cursed. "Then we find another way out." They pushed the bed toward the exit ramp. Ahead, daylight. Freedom. They were 10 feet away when a black van screeched to a stop, blocking the ramp. Doors opened. More contractors. Kane raised his weapon. "How many of these bastards are there?" Mara's breath came in gasps. Her ribs screamed. Her shoulder throbbed, but she wasn't stopping. She spotted a service elevator across the garage. Old. Probably hadn't worked in years, but maybe. "There," she said. They ran. The contractors opened fire. Bullets sparked off concrete pillars. One of Kane's agents went down, clutching his leg. Kane grabbed him, hauling him up. "Keep moving." They reached the elevator. Mara slammed the button. Nothing happened. She hit it again. Harder. The door shuttered, then opened. Inside now. They crammed in. The bed. The Admiral. Kane. 2 agents. Mara. Barely enough room to breathe. Kane hit the button for the ground floor. The doors closed. The elevator groaned. Cables whined. It lurched upward and stopped. Mara's stomach dropped. "What?" The lights flickered, went out. Emergency lighting kicked in, bathing everything in red. Kane hit the button again. Nothing. They cut the power, one of the agents said. Mara looked up. There was a hatch in the ceiling. Maintenance access. She climbed onto the bed's rail, ignoring the Admiral's shallow breathing, and pushed the hatch open. Cool air rushed in. "We climb," she said. Kane stared at her. "With a patient? You want to stay here and wait for them to cut through the doors?" Kane looked at the Admiral, at the two wounded agents, at the impossible situation they were in. Then he nodded. "All right, let's move." He climbed up first, pulling himself through the hatch. Mara followed. The elevator shaft stretched above them, dark and narrow. A ladder ran up one wall. Below, the contractors' voices echoed. Tools clanged. They were prying the doors open. Kane started climbing. Mara grabbed the ladder, every movement sending pain through her ribs. She climbed anyway. 1 rung, 2, 3. Below, the elevator doors shrieked open. Flashlight beams swept the shaft. "They're climbing. Go, go." Gunfire erupted. Bullets ricocheted off metal. Sparks flew. Mara climbed faster. Her hands slipped on the rungs. Sweat poured down her face. Her lungs burned. Above her, Kane reached the next floor. He kicked open the maintenance door and hauled himself through. Mara was 5 feet away when her foot slipped. She fell. Her hands caught the ladder, but the impact nearly tore her grip loose. Pain exploded through her shoulders. "Mara!" Kane reached down. She grabbed his hand. He pulled. Her arms screamed, but she held on. She scrambled through the door, collapsing on solid ground. They were in a stairwell, ground floor. Exit signs glowed green. Kane grabbed his radio. "Anyone, if you can hear this, we're at the northwest stairwell. Ground level. We need immediate extraction." Static. Then a voice. Faint but clear. "Copy that. Extract team inbound. ETA, 2 minutes." Mara's breath shuddered. 2 minutes. They could hold for 2 minutes. Below them, boots pounded up the stairs. Maybe not. Kane pulled Mara to her feet. They ran toward the exit, burst through the doors into daylight. A helicopter sat in the street, rotor spinning, side door open. Director Walsh stood beside it, waving them forward. "Move." They ran, 30 feet, 20, 10. Behind them, the contractors poured out of the building. Kane turned and fired. 3 shots, covering Mara. She reached the helicopter. Hands grabbed her, pulling her inside. She collapsed on the floor, gasping. Kane dove in after her. Walsh followed. The helicopter lifted off immediately. Gunfire cracked below. Bullets pinged off the hull. They climbed higher. The hospital shrank beneath them. The street. The contractors. All of it disappearing. Mara lay on the floor, staring at the ceiling, trying to breathe, trying to process what just happened. They were alive. Barely. Kane sat beside her, bleeding from multiple cuts, breathing hard. "You okay?" She nodded. "Where's the Admiral?" Kane's face fell. Mara's heart stopped. "Where is he?" "We couldn't bring him up," Kane said quietly. "The shaft was too narrow. We had to leave him in the elevator." Mara sat up, ignoring the pain. "You left him." "We had no choice." "They'll kill him." "My team is still down there. They'll protect him until—" "Your team is 2 wounded agents in a broken elevator. They don't stand a chance." Kane grabbed her shoulders. "Mara, listen to me. We had to get you out. You're the only witness. You're the only one who can testify against Sentinel. If you die, this whole operation dies with you." "I don't care about the operation. I care about him. He saved my life. I'm not letting him die because—" Walsh leaned forward from the pilot's seat. "We have a bigger problem." She held up a tablet. On the screen was a news broadcast, live footage of the hospital. The headline read, "Federal agents under investigation for hospital attack." Mara stared. "What?" "Sentinel's spinning the narrative," Walsh said. "They're claiming we attacked the hospital, that we endangered patients, that we're the terrorists." Kane cursed. "How is that even—" "They control the media. They control the story." Walsh's face was grim. "As of 10 minutes ago, we're wanted by local law enforcement. Every cop in the city is looking for us." Mara's mind reeled. "So what do we do?" Walsh looked at her. "We go public. We expose them. But we need evidence, real evidence, not just your testimony." "Renwick," Mara said. "He's evidence." He lawyered up the second we arrested him. He's not talking. Then we make him talk. Kane shook his head. He's in federal custody. We can't just... Where is he? Mara asked. Walsh hesitated. Metro Detention Center, downtown. Get me there. Mara, that's insane. We can't break into a federal facility. We're not breaking in, Mara said. We're visiting a prisoner, and he's going to tell us everything. Kane stared at her. You think he'll just confess? No? Mara's eyes hardened. But I know how to make him. The helicopter banked hard, changing course. Walsh looked back at her. What's your plan? Mara didn't answer. She was already thinking 3 steps ahead. Renwick killed her unit. He tried to kill the Admiral. He ruined her life. And now she was going to ruin his. The detention center came into view, gray concrete, barbed wire, guard towers. The helicopter touched down on the roof. Walsh grabbed Mara's arm. You have 10 minutes. After that, this place will be crawling with police. Mara nodded. She climbed out, Kane right behind her. They moved through the rooftop access, down the stairs, past confused guards who didn't know whether to stop them or help them. Walsh's badge opened doors, got them past security checkpoints, into the heart of the facility. They reached the interrogation wing. A guard checked a computer. Victor Renwick, room 7. Walsh nodded. Open it. The guard hesitated. Ma'am, protocol requires... Open it now. The guard swiped his card. The door buzzed open. Inside, Renwick sat at a metal table, hands cuffed to a chain bolted to the floor. He looked up when they entered. No surprise. No fear. Just a cold smile. Mara, he said, I was wondering when you'd show up. She stepped inside. Kane tried to follow, but she held up a hand. I need to do this alone. Kane frowned. Mara, alone. He hesitated, then stepped back. The door closed behind her. Mara and Renwick, face to face. She pulled out a chair and sat across from him. You know, Renwick said, I almost admire you. You survived things that should have killed you twice over. Where's the rest of Sentinel? Mara asked. I don't know what you're talking about. The contractors, the cleanup crew. Where are they operating from? Renwick leaned back. Even if I knew, why would I tell you? Because if you don't, you'll spend the rest of your life in a cell. I'll spend it there anyway. He smiled. But at least I'll be alive. You? You've got maybe 48 hours before they find you. Maybe, but I'll make sure you burn first. Renwick's smile faded. Careful, Mara. Threats don't look good in a federal facility. It's not a threat. Mara leaned forward. It's a promise. You killed 11 people I loved. You tried to kill a man who saved my life. You think I won't do whatever it takes to destroy you? What are you going to do? Testify? Your word against mine, a traumatized medic with PTSD against a decorated surgeon. I have more than my word. Renwick's eyes narrowed. What do you mean? Mara pulled out a small recorder from her pocket. She placed it on the table between them. The Admiral kept records, she said, audio recordings from Helmand Province, conversations, meetings, including one where you're discussing patrol routes with someone you shouldn't have been talking to. Renwick's face went pale. He couldn't use them before, Mara continued. No context, no corroboration. But now, with my testimony, with the attack tonight, it's enough to bury you. Renwick stared at the recorder. You're bluffing. Am I? She pressed play. Static, then voices. Confirms the route. They'll be on Highway 7 at 2100 hours. And the explosives? Already in place. Once the lead vehicle hits the IED, we move in. What about survivors? There won't be any. The recording stopped. Renwick's jaw tightened. That proves nothing. That's your voice, Mara said. Voice analysis will confirm it. And when it does, Sentinel won't protect you. They'll cut you loose to save themselves. Renwick's hands clenched. What do you want? The truth, on record, names, locations, everything. They'll kill me. They'll kill you anyway. At least this way you take them down with you. Renwick stared at her, his face twisted with rage, with fear, with the realization that he'd lost. All right, he said finally. I'll talk. But I want immunity. Not happening. Then I'm not... The door exploded open. Walsh burst in. We need to go. Now. Mara stood. What? Police just surrounded the building. They're coming in hot. Kane appeared behind her. We've got maybe 2 minutes. Mara looked at Renwick. Last chance. He smiled, cold, victorious. Looks like you're out of time. Mara grabbed the recorder and ran. They sprinted through the hallway. Behind them, boots thundered. Voices shouted. Alarms blared. They hit the stairwell, climbed, rooftop access ahead. They burst through the door. The helicopter was gone. Mara's heart stopped. Where? They had to pull back, Walsh said. Police have air support. They'll shoot us down if we try to leave. Kane grabbed his radio. We need extraction. Alternate location. Static. Anyone copy? Nothing. Sirens wailed below. Red and blue lights flooded the parking lot. They were trapped. Mara looked at Kane, at Walsh, at the city sprawling around them, and she made a decision. There's another way, she said. What are you talking about? She grabbed Kane's phone, pulled up the news app. The hospital attack was still front-page news. If Sentinel controls the narrative, she said, we take it back. How? Mara looked at the phone, at the camera, at the live broadcast button. We go live. Right now. Tell the world everything. Kane stared. Mara, that's the only option we have left. Walsh nodded slowly. She's right. If we broadcast the truth, Sentinel can't kill us without confirming everything we say. Kane's jaw worked. Then he handed Mara the phone. Do it. Mara opened the camera, positioned herself in frame, the city behind her, the detention center below. She pressed the live button. Viewers connected immediately. 10, 20, 50. The number climbed. Mara took a breath and began. My name is Mara Holt. 4 years ago, I was Petty Officer Holt, Combat Medic, Unit 13. My entire team was killed in an ambush orchestrated by a private military contractor called Sentinel Defense Solutions. Tonight, they tried to silence the only 2 people who knew the truth. They failed. The viewer count hit 500, then 1,000. The man responsible is Dr. Victor Renwick. He's in federal custody, but Sentinel will do everything they can to protect him, to protect their operation, to keep the truth buried. 2,000 viewers, 5,000. I'm making this video because I won't let my team die in vain, because justice matters, because the truth matters, and because if something happens to me tonight, you'll know why. 10,000 viewers, 20,000. Mara held up the recorder. This contains proof, audio recordings, conversations, evidence that Sentinel orchestrated the ambush, evidence that they've killed to protect their contracts, evidence that a shot rang out. The phone shattered in her hand. Mara stumbled back, ears ringing. On the roof across the street, a figure stood with a rifle. Sniper! Kane shouted. They ran for cover. Another shot. The concrete exploded where Mara's head had been. They dove behind an air conditioning unit. Walsh grabbed her radio. We need support. Rooftop. Metro detention. Sniper active. Kane looked at Mara. Did it upload? I don't know. Check. Mara grabbed Kane's phone from his belt. The screen was cracked but functional. She pulled up the app. The video was there. Live. Still streaming. 50,000 viewers, 75,000, 100,000. It's up, she breathed. It's live. Walsh's radio crackled. Support team inbound. ETA 3 minutes. 3 minutes. The sniper fired again. The bullet punched through the air conditioning unit. Metal shrieked. They couldn't stay here. Kane pointed to a maintenance shed 20 feet away. We move on 3. 1, 2. The roof access door exploded open. Police poured out, weapons drawn, voices shouting. Federal agents, drop your weapons. Kane raised his hands. We're federal too, badges on the ground, now. They had no choice. They knelt, hands behind their heads. Officers swarmed them, cuffed them, pulled them to their feet. Mara's mind raced. The video was out. The truth was out. But would it be enough? They were marched toward the roof access, down the stairs, through the detention center. Outside, news vans crowded the street, cameras everywhere, reporters shouting questions. Is it true you attacked the hospital? Are you working with terrorists? What's your connection to Sentinel Defense? The officers shoved them toward a police transport, and then Mara saw him, a man in a suit, standing at the edge of the crowd, watching. Not a reporter, not a cop. Sentinel. He raised his phone to his ear, spoke quietly, then looked directly at Mara and smiled. The transport doors slammed shut. Inside, Mara sat between Kane and Walsh. Her wrists ached, her ribs throbbed, her mind spun. "What now?" she asked. Kane shook his head. "I don't know." Walsh looked at her. "We wait. We hope the video does what we need it to do." Mara stared at the floor. They'd exposed Sentinel. They'd told the truth. But truth didn't always win. The transport started moving, and somewhere in the city, the Admiral lay dying in an elevator, alone, surrounded by enemies, with no one left to save him. The transport rattled through city streets, metal walls vibrating with each pothole. Mara sat in the dark, wrists cuffed, listening to sirens wail outside. Kane sat across from her, silent. Walsh beside him, jaw tight. No one spoke for the first 5 minutes. Then Walsh's phone buzzed. The officer driving glanced back. "No calls in transport." Walsh pulled it out anyway. Her face changed as she read the screen. "The video hit 2 million views." Mara's breath caught. 2 million? And climbing. Every major news outlet is covering it. They're demanding answers from Sentinel. Kane leaned forward. "What's the company saying?" "Nothing yet. Radio silence." Walsh scrolled. "But social media is exploding. People are digging up old contracts, military incidents, unexplained deaths connected to Sentinel operations." The officer driving spoke into his radio. "Transport 17, en route to central booking." The radio crackled back. "Copy that. Be advised, media presence heavy at your destination." Mara's pulse quickened. Media meant cameras. Cameras meant witnesses. Witnesses meant Sentinel couldn't make them disappear quietly. The transport slowed. Through the small window, Mara saw it. News vans lined the street. Cameras on tripods, reporters with microphones. A crowd had gathered, phones raised, chanting something she couldn't make out. The transport stopped. The back doors opened. Light flooded in, voices exploded. "Is it true about Sentinel? Did they really orchestrate the ambush? Where's the Admiral?" Officers formed a line, pushing the crowd back. Kane stepped out first, then Walsh. Mara followed, squinting against the camera flashes. A reporter shoved a microphone toward her. "Ms. Holt, do you stand by your accusations?" Mara looked directly into the camera. "Every word." "What proof do you have? Audio recordings? Witness testimony? And a trail of bodies Sentinel left behind?" An officer grabbed her arm. "That's enough." But another reporter shouted, "What about Dr. Renwick? Is he really in custody?" "Yes," Mara said, louder now. "And he'll talk. He'll tell you everything." The officer pulled her toward the building. Kane and Walsh followed. The crowd pressed closer, voices overlapping, questions flying. Inside, the booking area was chaos. Phones ringing, officers shouting, monitors showing the news coverage on every channel. A sergeant approached. Late 50s, hard face. Name tag read Morrison. "Agent Kane," he said. "You're in a lot of trouble." "We're doing our jobs," Kane replied. "Your job is to follow protocol, not blow up hospitals and live stream accusations." "We didn't blow up anything. Sentinel did." Morrison's expression didn't change. "That's not what the preliminary reports say." "The preliminary reports are wrong." "Then you'll have a chance to explain that to Internal Affairs, to the district attorney, to about 15 different oversight committees." Walsh stepped forward. "Sergeant, we have evidence that—" "I don't care." Morrison's voice cut like steel. "Right now, you're suspects in a federal investigation. You'll be processed, photographed, and held until someone with more authority than me decides what to do with you." He gestured to 3 officers. "Book them." They were separated. Mara was led to a small room with a metal table and 2 chairs. The officer uncuffed her, then cuffed her again to a bolt in the table. "Someone will be with you shortly," he said, then left. Mara sat alone. The room was cold, sterile. A mirror on one wall, obviously two-way glass. She stared at her reflection. Her scrubs were torn and bloody. Her face was bruised. Her hair was a mess. She looked like someone who'd been through hell, because she had. The door opened. A woman entered, 30s. Sharp suit, briefcase in hand. She sat across from Mara and placed a recorder on the table. "My name is Catherine Reeves," she said, "Assistant District Attorney. I need to ask you some questions." "Am I under arrest?" "Not yet, but depending on your answers, that could change." Mara leaned back. "What do you want to know?" Reeves opened her briefcase and pulled out a file. "Let's start with tonight. You claim you were at Riverside Memorial Hospital when it was attacked." "I was." "And you claim the attackers were private military contractors working for Sentinel Defense Solutions." "That's correct." "Do you have proof?" "I have eyes. I saw them." "That's not proof. That's testimony. And given your history, your testimony is questionable." Mara's jaw tightened. "What history?" Reeves slid a document across the table. "You disappeared from a military hospital 4 years ago. No debrief. No explanation. You changed your name, falsified records to obtain a nursing license. You've been living under an assumed identity. Because someone tried to kill me. Or because you were trying to hide from something else. Like what?" "PTSD, guilt, trauma." Reeves leaned forward. "The official report says your unit was killed by insurgents. You were the only survivor. That kind of trauma can cause delusions, paranoia, conspiracy theories." "I'm not delusional." "Then explain the video. You accused a decorated surgeon of murder. You implicated a major defense contractor in war crimes, all without a shred of physical evidence. I have recordings, which you claim came from the Admiral, but the Admiral is currently missing, possibly dead, so we only have your word." Mara's hands clenched. "I'm telling the truth." "Maybe you believe that, but belief isn't evidence." The door opened. Another figure entered, male, 50, gray suit, expensive watch. He carried himself like someone used to getting his way. "Ms. Reeves," he said. "A word." Reeves frowned. "We're in the middle of—" "Now." She stood, irritation flashing across her face, and followed him out. The door closed. Mara sat alone again. Through the two-way mirror, she knew people were watching, listening, deciding her fate. She closed her eyes and saw her unit, Garrett's laugh, Silva's terrible jokes, Torres teaching her how to play poker, Martinez showing her photos of his daughter. All dead. Because of Renwick. Because of Sentinel. The door opened again, but it wasn't Reeves, it was Kane. "How—" Mara started. "Walsh pulled strings. We've got 5 minutes." He sat across from her, voice low. "The video is causing problems for them." "Good." "Sentinel just released a statement. They're denying everything, calling you a disgruntled former employee with a vendetta." "I never worked for them." "They're saying you were contracted through a third party, that you failed a psych eval and were let go, that everything you've said is retaliation." Mara's stomach twisted. "People won't believe that. Some will. Enough to create doubt. And doubt is all they need." "What about the recordings? Without the Admiral to authenticate them, they're just voices on a tape. Could be anyone. Could be fabricated." "So we're back to nothing," Kane shook his head. "Not nothing. The video has momentum. Congress is calling for hearings. The Pentagon is launching an investigation. Sentinel's stock dropped 30% in the last hour. But I'm still sitting here in cuffs. For now." Kane leaned closer. "But here's the thing. Sentinel made a mistake. They went too hard too fast. The attack on the hospital was supposed to be quiet. Instead, it's national news. People are asking questions, and when corporations get nervous, they start covering their tracks." "What does that mean?" "It means someone inside Sentinel is going to flip. Someone who doesn't want to go down with the ship. We just have to wait for them to make contact." "What if they don't?" "They will. They always do." The door opened. Reeves returned, face pale. "You're free to go," she said. Mara blinked. "What?" "New evidence has come to light. You're no longer a suspect." Kane stood. "What evidence?" Reeves didn't answer. She just unlocked Mara's cuffs and stepped back. Mara rubbed her wrists, confused. "I don't understand." "Neither do I," Reeves said quietly. "But someone very powerful just made a phone call, and now my hands are tied." She left without another word. Mara looked at Kane. "What just happened?" "I don't know. But let's not wait around to find out." They walked out of the interrogation room. Walsh was waiting in the hallway, equally confused. "They're letting us go," she said. "No charges. No conditions." "Who authorized it?" Kane asked. "No idea. The order came from the top, way above my clearance level." They moved through the station. Officers watched them pass, some with suspicion, some with something close to respect. Outside, the media was still there, but the energy had shifted. Reporters weren't shouting questions anymore. They were listening to something on their phones, faces shocked. One of them looked up as Mara passed. "Is it true? About the Admiral?" Mara stopped. "What about him?" The reporter turned her phone around. On the screen was breaking news. Navy Admiral rescued alive. Sentinel contractors arrested at scene. Mara's heart nearly stopped. "When? Where?" 20 minutes ago. Federal agents stormed the parking garage where he was trapped. They found him barely alive, surrounded by Sentinel contractors. All 12 contractors were taken into custody. Kane grabbed Mara's arm. "The elevator." They went back for him. Walsh was already on her phone. "I'm getting confirmation now. He's being airlifted to Walter Reed, critical but stable." Mara's legs nearly gave out. "He's alive." "He's alive," Walsh confirmed. The reporter pressed closer. "Ms. Holt, what's your response to Sentinel's statement?" Mara looked directly into the camera. "They're lying, and the truth is going to bury them." A black SUV pulled up to the curb. Director Walsh's team. The door opened. "Let's go," Walsh said. They climbed in. The SUV pulled away from the station, away from the cameras, into the relative quiet of moving traffic. Mara sat back, trying to process everything. The Admiral was alive. Sentinel was scrambling. The truth was spreading. But it wasn't over. Kane's phone buzzed. He answered, listened, then his face went hard. "When?" he asked. Then, "Copy that." He hung up. "Renwick's dead," he said. The SUV went silent. "What?" Mara whispered. "Found in his cell 20 minutes ago. Apparent suicide. He used a torn sheet." Walsh cursed. "There's no way that was suicide." "Of course it wasn't," Kane said. "Sentinel got to him before he could talk." Mara's hands clenched. "They killed him." "They silenced him," Kane corrected. "But that doesn't mean we've lost. It means they're desperate." The SUV turned onto a highway, heading out of the city. Mara stared out the window, watching the buildings blur past. Renwick was dead. The man who killed her unit, who tried to kill the Admiral, who destroyed her life. Dead. She should have felt satisfaction, relief, something. Instead, she felt empty. "Where are we going?" she asked. "Safe house," Walsh said, "until we figure out our next move." "I want to see the Admiral." "That's not possible right now. He's in surgery. They're trying to stabilize him for transport to a secure facility." "Then I want to be there when he wakes up." Walsh met her eyes in the rearview mirror. "Mara, you've been through hell. You need rest, medical attention, time to process. I need to finish this." "It might already be finished." "No." Mara's voice was steel. "Not until Sentinel burns." The SUV drove for another 30 minutes, finally pulling into an abandoned industrial complex on the outskirts of the city. Another warehouse, another temporary command center. Inside, agents worked at computer stations. Screens showed news coverage, social media feeds, stock market numbers. Walsh led them to a conference room in the back. A table, chairs, coffee, nothing else. "Wait here," she said. "I need to make some calls." She left. Kane poured coffee, handed a cup to Mara. She took it, but didn't drink. "You should eat something," he said. "I'm not hungry. You need to keep your strength up." "I'm fine." Kane sat across from her. "No, you're not. And that's okay." Mara looked at him. "How long have you been tracking Sentinel?" 3 years since I stumbled across inconsistencies in the Helmand Province attack report." "What kind of inconsistencies?" "Timing, logistics. The insurgents knew too much. They knew your route, your schedule, even your comm frequencies. That kind of intel doesn't come from luck." "So you started digging." "I started digging, found shell companies, encrypted payments, contractors moving through the region who weren't supposed to be there. The deeper I went, the more it pointed to Sentinel." "Did you know about Renwick?" "Not at first. He was good at covering his tracks. But when the Admiral reopened the investigation 6 months ago, Renwick panicked, started making mistakes. That's when I connected the dots. Mara's jaw tightened. And tonight, he paid for those mistakes. Maybe? Or maybe someone made sure he couldn't talk. The door opened. Walsh returned, face grim. "We have a problem," she said. "What now?" Kane asked. "Sentinel's lawyers just filed a lawsuit against you, Mara, for defamation, slander, and intentional infliction of emotional distress." Mara stood. "Let them sue. It's not about winning. It's about burying you in legal fees, tying you up in court for years, making you broke and exhausted so you give up." "I won't give up. They're also pushing a narrative that you're mentally unstable. They've got psychiatrists lined up to testify about PTSD, survivor's guilt, paranoid delusions. None of that is true. Doesn't matter. It creates doubt. And in the court of public opinion, doubt is enough." Kane slammed his hand on the table. "So what do we do?" Walsh pulled out a tablet and set it on the table. "We go on the offensive." She opened a file. Documents appeared on screen, financial records, emails, contracts. "Where did you get these?" Kane asked. "Someone inside Sentinel leaked them. Anonymous tip. Came through an encrypted channel an hour ago." Mara leaned closer. "What are they?" "Proof, real proof. Internal communications showing Renwick coordinating with insurgents. Bank transfers linked to the Hellman attack. Orders from Sentinel's executive board authorizing defensive measures against whistleblowers." Kane scrolled through the documents. "This is everything we need." "Almost everything," Walsh said. "We still need someone to testify. Someone on the inside who can verify these documents are genuine." "The person who leaked them," Mara said. "Exactly. But they're not coming forward. Not yet. They're scared. Can we trace the tip?" "We're trying. But whoever sent it knows how to stay hidden." Mara stared at the documents. Names, dates, amounts. All the pieces of a conspiracy laid out in black and white. "How do we get them to come forward?" she asked. Walsh's expression hardened. "We make Sentinel more dangerous to work for than to betray." Over the next 6 hours, they worked. Walsh's team leaked the documents to every major news outlet. Financial networks reported on the stock crash. Congressional representatives called for investigations. The Pentagon announced a review of all Sentinel contracts. The company's PR team released statement after statement, each one more desperate than the last. They claimed the documents were fabricated. They threatened legal action. They called the leaks a conspiracy. But the damage was done. By midnight, Sentinel's stock had dropped 60%. 3 board members resigned. 2 executives were placed on administrative leave. And then the first domino fell. A mid-level manager at Sentinel's logistics division came forward, held a press conference, confirmed the documents were real, named names, implicated executives, offered to testify. Within an hour, 2 more employees came forward, then 5 more, then a dozen. The floodgates opened. Mara watched it happen on the monitors. People who'd stayed silent for years suddenly finding their voices. Former contractors, administrative staff, even a former board member, all of them telling the same story. Sentinel had been running illegal operations for over a decade. Weapons deals, assassinations, corporate espionage, all hidden behind layers of shell companies and encrypted communications. And at the center of it all was a small group of executives who'd made billions while soldiers died. Kane stood beside Mara, watching the coverage. "We did it." "Not yet," Mara said. "Not until they're in cuffs." As if on cue, Walsh's phone rang. She answered, listened, then smiled. Federal agents just raided Sentinel's headquarters. They're arresting the CEO and 3 other executives. Charges include conspiracy, racketeering, and accessory to murder. Mara felt something loosen in her chest. Not quite relief. Not quite satisfaction, but close. "What about the contractors who attacked the hospital?" she asked. "All in custody, facing federal charges. They're cooperating in exchange for reduced sentences." Kane exhaled slowly. "It's over." Walsh shook her head. "Not quite. We still need to secure the Admiral's testimony. He's the only one who can directly link Renwick to the Hellman attack." "When can I see him?" Mara asked. "He's out of surgery. They're moving him to a secure recovery room. You can visit in the morning." Mara nodded, Her body felt heavy. The adrenaline that had kept her moving for the past 12 hours was finally draining away. "You should rest," Walsh said. "There's a room upstairs, clean clothes, medical supplies if you need them." Mara wanted to argue, wanted to keep moving, but her body had other ideas. "All right," she said. "A few hours." She climbed the stairs to the second floor, found the room Walsh mentioned. It was small but clean. A cot, a sink, a mirror. She looked at herself. Really looked. The woman staring back was a stranger, bruised, exhausted, but still standing. She stripped off her torn scrubs and washed in the sink, cold water on her face, soap on her hands, washing away blood and smoke and fear. She found clean clothes folded on the cot, black cargo pants, gray t-shirt, jacket, all her size. Walsh thought of everything. Mara dressed, then lay down on the cot. She closed her eyes, expecting sleep to come immediately. Instead, she saw faces: Garrett, Silva, Torres, Martinez, Lieutenant Pierce, all of them smiling, all of them alive in her memory. "We got him," she whispered into the darkness. "We got all of them." She didn't know if they could hear her, didn't know if it mattered, but saying it out loud made something inside her settle. She slept. When she woke, sunlight streamed through a small window. She checked her watch. 7 hours had passed. She stood, stretched, felt pain radiate through her ribs. But it was manageable. Downstairs, Kane sat at a computer, scrolling through news coverage. He looked up when she entered. "Morning," he said. "Anything new?" "Sentinel's stock is worthless. The company filed for bankruptcy protection an hour ago. The board voted to dissolve the corporation." "Good. Federal prosecutors are building cases against 14 executives and 43 contractors. The Pentagon canceled every active contract, and Congress scheduled hearings to investigate how Sentinel operated unchecked for so long." Mara poured coffee. "What about the Admiral?" "Awake. Asking for you." Her heart skipped. "Can I see him?" "Walsh is arranging transport now. We leave in 20 minutes." The drive to Walter Reed took 45 minutes. Mara sat in the back of another SUV, watching the city wake up. People going to work, kids waiting for buses. Normal life continuing like nothing had happened. But everything had changed. They arrived at the hospital. Security waved them through. Inside, the hallways were quiet. Sterile. A stark contrast to the chaos of Riverside Memorial. Walsh led them to the ICU. The Admiral's room was at the end of the hall, guarded by 2 armed agents. 10 minutes, Walsh said. "He's still weak." Mara nodded and stepped inside. The Admiral lay in bed, connected to monitors and IVs. His face was pale, but his eyes were open, alert. He smiled when he saw her. "Holt," he said, voice rough. "You look terrible." She laughed, surprised by the sound. "You don't look so great yourself, sir." "Call me Marcus. I think we're past formalities." She pulled a chair beside his bed and sat. "How are you feeling?" "Like I got shot 5 times and spent 12 hours in a broken elevator." "So, pretty good then." He laughed, then winced. "Don't make me laugh. Hurts like hell." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment. Then Marcus spoke. "I heard what you did. Going on camera, exposing Sentinel. That took guts." "I didn't have a choice." "There's always a choice. You chose to fight. A lot of people would have run." "I tried running. Didn't work out." Marcus reached for her hand. His grip was weak but steady. "Your unit would be proud." Mara's throat tightened. "I hope so." "I know so. Garrett always said you were the toughest one in the squad. Silva bet you'd outlive all of them." He was right. He usually was. Mara squeezed his hand gently. "Did you really keep recordings? From Helmand?" Marcus nodded. "Every conversation I could capture. I knew something was wrong. I just couldn't prove it. Not until you came back into the picture." "Why didn't you use them before?" "Because I had no corroboration. No witnesses. Just my word against a decorated surgeon and a billion-dollar company. They would have buried me." "But you kept digging anyway." "I owed it to your unit. To you. To every soldier who died because of Sentinel's greed." The door opened. A doctor entered, clipboard in hand. "I'm sorry, but the Admiral needs to rest." Mara stood. "I'll come back." "You better," Marcus said. "We've got a lot to talk about." She left the room, emotion churning in her chest. In the hallway, Walsh was waiting. "There's someone here to see you." "Who?" Walsh gestured toward the waiting room. Inside sat a woman in her 60s. Short gray hair, kind eyes. She stood when Mara entered. "You don't know me," the woman said, "but I know you. I'm Sarah Martinez, Michael's mother." Mara's breath caught. Martinez. Her teammate. The one who showed her photos of his daughter. "Mrs. Martinez," Mara managed, "I'm so sorry. Your son was a hero. I know." Sarah stepped closer. "I saw your video. I heard what you said about what really happened to my son." Tears burned Mara's eyes. "He deserved better. They all did." "They got better. They got you." Sarah took Mara's hands. "You didn't let them die in vain. You made sure the truth came out. You gave me answers I've been searching for since the day the military showed up at my door. I should have done it sooner. You did it when you could. That's what matters." Sarah pulled her into a hug. "Thank you for fighting for them, for not giving up." Mara held on tight, letting the tears fall. When Sarah finally pulled back, she smiled through her own tears. "Michael would have liked you surviving. He always said you were too stubborn to die." "He wasn't wrong." Sarah laughed softly. Then she handed Mara a small box. "I want you to have this." Inside was a medal, bronze star, Martinez's name engraved on the back. "I can't take this," Mara said. "Yes, you can. Michael would want you to have it. He'd want you to remember that you were part of something bigger, that you mattered." Mara closed the box carefully. "Thank you." Sarah left. Mara stood alone in the waiting room, holding the medal, feeling the weight of it. The weight of responsibility, of memory, of justice finally served. Walsh appeared in the doorway. "We need to go. Congressional hearing starts in 2 hours." "Hearing?" "They want you to testify, on record, about everything." Mara looked down at the medal in her hands. Then she nodded. "Let's finish this." The drive to Capitol Hill was surreal. Protesters lined the streets. Some held signs supporting Sentinel. Most held signs demanding justice. Inside the Capitol building, the hearing room was packed. Senators, representatives, journalists, cameras everywhere. Mara sat at a long table facing the committee, Kane and Walsh beside her. Marcus had testified earlier via video link from his hospital bed. Now it was her turn. The committee chairman leaned into his microphone. "Ms. Holt, thank you for being here. We understand you've been through a difficult ordeal." "Yes, sir." "Can you describe in your own words what happened 4 years ago in Helmand Province?" Mara took a breath. Then she told them everything. The ambush, the explosions, the deaths, Renwick's betrayal, Sentinel's involvement. She spoke for 40 minutes. No notes, no hesitation, just the truth. When she finished, the room was silent. Then one senator spoke. "Ms. Holt, do you have any evidence to support these claims?" "Yes, sir. Audio recordings, financial documents, testimony from multiple Sentinel employees, and the Admiral's first-hand account." "And you're willing to testify under oath?" "I already am under oath, sir. But yes, I'll testify in any proceeding necessary." Another senator leaned forward. "What do you hope to accomplish with this testimony?" Mara met his eyes. "I want people to know the truth. I want the families of my unit to know their loved ones didn't die because of bad luck or enemy action. They died because someone sold them out for money. And I want to make sure it never happens again." The chairman nodded slowly. "Thank you, Ms. Holt. Your testimony will be entered into the official record." The hearing continued for another 3 hours. Other witnesses. Expert testimony. Financial analysts explaining how Sentinel had hidden billions in illegal profits. By the time it ended, the sun was setting. Outside, reporters swarmed. But Mara didn't stop to answer questions. She just walked to the waiting SUV and climbed inside. Kane sat beside her. "You did good in there." "It's not enough." "It's a start." Walsh turned from the front seat. "The Department of Justice just announced they're filing criminal charges against 23 Sentinel executives and contractors, including charges related to the Helmand attack." "What about the families?" Mara asked. "The ones who lost people?" "They're being notified, and they'll be eligible for compensation from Sentinel's seized assets." Mara nodded. It wasn't enough. Nothing could bring back the dead. But it was something. The SUV pulled away from the Capitol, heading back toward the safe house. Mara's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. She opened it. "Thank you for telling the truth. A friend." She stared at the message, then deleted it. Some secrets were better left alone. When they arrived at the safe house, Walsh's team had packed up. The warehouse was nearly empty. "We're moving operations back to headquarters," Walsh explained. "Case is transitioning from investigation to prosecution." "What happens now?" Mara asked. "You testify at the trials, help build the cases, and then, eventually, you get your life back." Mara wasn't sure what that meant anymore. Her old life was gone. Her identity was public. She couldn't go back to being invisible. But maybe that was okay. Maybe it was time to stop hiding. Kane approached her. "There's something you should know. The nursing board reviewed your case. They're offering to reinstate your license under your real name." "Why would they do that?" "Because what you did at the hospital, saving the Admiral, proved you're qualified. More than qualified." Mara shook her head. "I'm not going back to nursing." "Then what will you do?" She looked out the warehouse windows at the city lights. "I don't know yet, but I'll figure it out." Kane handed her an envelope. "From the Admiral. He asked me to give it to you." Inside was a letter, handwritten. "Holt, I'm told I'll make a full recovery. Doctors say another hour, and I wouldn't have, so I owe you my life. Again, I've spent 4 years trying to make things right. You spent 4 years trying to survive. We both did what we had to do, but now it's over. Sentinel is finished, justice is coming, and you're free. Don't waste it. Don't spend the rest of your life looking over your shoulder. Your unit wouldn't want that. I don't want that. Live. For them. For you. Marcus." Mara folded the letter carefully and put it in her pocket. The warehouse door opened. A man entered. Suit. Briefcase. Federal prosecutor. He approached Walsh. They spoke quietly. Then Walsh's face went pale. She turned to Mara. "We have a problem." Mara's stomach dropped. "What now?" Walsh held up her phone. On the screen was a news alert. "Sentinel CEO found dead in federal custody. Apparent suicide." Mara's blood ran cold. "When?" 30 minutes ago." Kane cursed. "They're cleaning house." "Who's they?" Mara asked. "Sentinel's finished. The company's gone." "The company is," Walsh said grimly. "But the people who funded it aren't. The investors, the foreign governments, the shadow players who made billions off Sentinel's operations. You're saying there's more?" "I'm saying Sentinel was the tip of the iceberg. And now that we've exposed them, someone is making sure no one can testify about what's underneath," the federal prosecutor spoke. "We've placed all remaining Sentinel witnesses in protective custody. But if someone is actively eliminating them, it's only a matter of time before—" His phone rang. He answered, listened. His face went white. "When?" he asked. Then, "Are you sure?" He hung up. "What?" Walsh demanded. 2 more witnesses just died. Car accident. Brake failure." Mara's pulse hammered. "This isn't over." "No," Walsh said. "It's not." Kane grabbed his weapon. "We need to move Mara, now." "Move me where?" "Somewhere they can't find you." "I'm not hiding anymore. Mara, I'm done running. I'm done letting them control my life. If someone wants me dead, let them come." Walsh shook her head. "That's suicide." "No, that's bait." Kane stared at her. "What are you thinking?" Mara's mind raced. Sentinel was gone, but someone bigger was still out there, someone powerful enough to reach into federal custody and kill witnesses. Someone who wanted the truth buried. "I'm thinking," Mara said slowly, "that whoever's doing this needs me dead, which means I'm leverage." "Leverage for what?" "To draw them out." Walsh's eyes widened. "You want to use yourself as bait. It's the only way." "Absolutely not." "You have a better plan?" Walsh didn't answer. Kane looked between them. "If we do this, we need to control every variable. Choose the location, set the trap, make sure we're ready for whatever comes." "Agreed," Mara said. Walsh exhaled slowly. "This is insane." "So was everything else we've done in the past 48 hours?" Walsh stared at her for a long moment, then nodded. All right, but we do this my way. Full tactical support, no unnecessary risks. Deal. They spent the next 2 hours planning. Location, communications, backup, every detail mapped out. Finally, Walsh stood. We move at dawn. Until then, get some rest. You're going to need it. Mara climbed back up to the small room on the second floor, lay down on the cot, closed her eyes. But sleep didn't come. Instead, she thought about her unit, about Marcus, about everyone who died because of greed and lies. Tomorrow she'd risk everything to bring down whoever was left. And this time, she wasn't walking away until it was finished. Her phone buzzed. She checked it. Another text from the unknown number. They're coming for you, sooner than you think. Mara's blood froze. She sat up, heart pounding, looked at the window and saw a red laser dot appear on the wall beside her head. Mara threw herself sideways off the cot. The window exploded inward, glass shredding the air where her head had been. She hit the floor hard, rolled, and scrambled toward the door. Another shot punched through the wall, then another. Controlled. Precise. Professional. She yanked the door open and ran into the hallway. Sniper! Below, chaos erupted. Agents grabbed weapons. Lights cut out. Emergency protocols kicked in. Kane appeared at the bottom of the stairs, weapon raised. Where? Across the street, rooftop. Walsh's voice crackled over the radio. All units, hostile contact. Lock down the building. Find that shooter. Mara pressed against the wall, breathing hard. Her mind raced. They knew where she was. Knew exactly which room. Which window. Someone had told them. We've got a leak, she said. Kane's face hardened. Not possible. Only 5 people knew you were in that room. Then one of those 5 people is compromised. Walsh joined them in the hallway, radio in hand. Tactical team is sweeping the area. We'll find them. By then we'll be dead, Mara said. They're not here to scare us. They're here to finish it. The lights flickered, then died completely. Emergency lighting cast everything in red. Walsh cursed. They cut the power. Or someone inside did, Kane said quietly. They stared at each other in the crimson darkness. Walsh spoke into her radio. All units, report status. Static. She tried again. Anyone copy? Nothing. Comms are down, Kane said. We're blind. A sound echoed from below. Metal scraping. Then silence. Mara's pulse hammered. Someone's inside. Kane moved to the stairwell, peering down into the darkness. Mara followed, keeping low. Below, shadows moved, not agents. The movements were wrong. Too coordinated, too tactical. How many? Walsh whispered. At least 4, Kane replied. Maybe more. They backed away from the stairs. Walsh pulled out her phone, tried to dial. No signal, they're jamming us. Mara looked around. They were trapped on the second floor. One stairwell, no other exits. Windows led to a 3-story drop onto concrete. Bad options everywhere. We need to move, she said. Now. They ran down the hallway, away from the stairs. At the far end was a window facing the back alley. Kane checked it. There's a fire escape. Rusted, but it might hold. Might? Walsh said. Better than staying here. Kane smashed the window with his elbow. Cold air rushed in. He climbed through first, testing the metal platform. It groaned under his weight, but held. Come on, he said, reaching back. Mara climbed through. The metal was ice cold under her hands. Below, the alley stretched into darkness. Walsh followed. The platform shuddered. A bolt popped loose, clattering down to the pavement below. Move, Kane said. They descended fast. The ladder swayed with each step. Another bolt snapped. The entire structure shifted sideways. Mara jumped the last 6 feet, landing hard on asphalt. Pain shot through her ankle, but she kept moving. They ran into the alley. Behind them, footsteps pounded down the fire escape. This way, Walsh said, leading them toward a side street. They emerged onto a quiet residential block. Parked cars, dark houses. No people. Kane grabbed Walsh's arm. Where's the nearest safe house? 12 blocks east, but without comms. We walk. They moved fast, staying in shadows, using parked cars for cover. Every sound made Mara's heart jump. Every headlight made her freeze. 3 blocks in, a black sedan turned onto the street behind them. "Contact," Kane said. They ducked between 2 houses, pressing against a fence. The sedan crawled past, spotlight sweeping yards. Looking for them, the car passed. They waited 30 seconds, then kept moving. 2 more blocks. They cut through a park, staying off the paths, moving through trees. Mara's ankle throbbed. Her ribs screamed, but she didn't slow down. They reached a residential street, quiet, empty. Walsh pointed to a house halfway down the block. "There. Blue door." They approached carefully. The house looked abandoned, overgrown lawn, boarded windows. Walsh knocked twice, paused, then 3 times. A code. The door opened a crack. A face appeared. Young agent, maybe 25, eyes wide with fear. "Director Walsh." "Let us in." They slipped inside. The agent locked the door behind them, hands shaking. "What happened?" he asked. "I lost all communication with HQ. Tried calling, texting, everything's dead." "We were hit," Walsh said. "Multiple hostiles, comms jammed. We need to reestablish contact with Federal Command." The agent led them to a back room, computer equipment, radios, a satellite uplink. "This should work," he said, powering up the system. "It's on a separate network. Hardline. No wireless." The screen flickered to life. He typed rapidly, establishing a secure connection. A face appeared on the monitor. Military uniform. 3 stars on his collar. "General Hawthorne, Pentagon." "Director Walsh," he said, We've been trying to reach you for the past hour." "We were attacked," Walsh replied. "Multiple casualties, comms compromised. We need immediate extraction and support." Hawthorne's expression darkened. "Understood. But we have a bigger problem. 3 more witnesses died in the past 2 hours, all in federal custody, all ruled accidental." Kane leaned forward. "How is that possible?" "Because someone very high up is making it happen. Someone with access to federal facilities, witness locations, security protocols." Mara's stomach dropped. "How high?" Hawthorne hesitated. "We're still investigating, but the scope of access suggests someone at the deputy secretary level, maybe higher." Walsh's face went pale. "You're talking about someone in the administration." "I'm talking about someone with enough power to erase witnesses and cover their tracks. Someone who stood to lose billions if Sentinel went down." "Who?" Mara demanded. "We don't know yet, but we're close. We've isolated 3 suspects based on financial ties to Sentinel. We're moving to arrest them now." "That'll take too long," Mara said. "By then we'll all be dead." Hawthorne met her eyes through the screen. "Then you need to disappear, completely, until we secure the suspects." "No." Mara's voice was steel. "I'm done disappearing. I'm done letting them control the narrative." "Ms. Holt, they want me silenced, which means I'm the threat they're most afraid of. So let's use that." Walsh frowned. "What are you suggesting?" "We go public. Again. But this time we name names. We force them into the open." "We don't have names yet," Hawthorne said. "Then I'll give them a reason to expose themselves." Mara grabbed the keyboard and pulled up a news website. Every major outlet was still covering Sentinel's collapse, still running her testimony. She opened a live streaming platform, set up a broadcast. "What are you doing?" Kane asked. "Finishing this." She positioned herself in front of the camera, adjusted the angle, then went live. Viewers connected immediately. 10, 50, 500. "My name is Mara Holt," she began. 2 days ago, I exposed Sentinel Defense Solutions. Since then, multiple witnesses have died under suspicious circumstances. Someone is eliminating anyone who can testify about Sentinel's operations. Someone powerful. Someone inside the federal government." The viewer count hit 5,000. "I don't know who you are," Mara continued, staring directly into the camera. "But I know you're watching, and I know you're scared, because if you weren't, you wouldn't be killing witnesses. You wouldn't be sending contractors after me. You wouldn't be this desperate." 10,000 viewers. 20,000. "So here's my message. I'm not hiding, I'm not running, and I'm not going to stop until everyone knows what you did. You can kill witnesses, you can jam communications, you can erase evidence, but you can't erase the truth." 50,000 viewers. "And the truth is this: you're afraid of one person, me, A nurse, a survivor, someone you thought you could silence. Mara leaned closer to the camera. You were wrong. She ended the broadcast. The room was silent. Then Hawthorne spoke from the screen. That was either brilliant or suicidal. Both, Walsh muttered. Kane looked at Mara. You just painted a target on yourself. I was already a target. Now I'm a target that's too visible to kill quietly. Her phone buzzed. The unknown number again. She answered. A voice. Male. Smooth. Confident. Ms. Holt. That was quite a performance. Who is this? Who is someone who's been trying very hard to keep certain information contained. You've made that significantly more difficult. Good. A pause. You think you've won. You haven't. Then why are you calling? Because I want to make a deal. Mara's jaw tightened. I'm not interested in deals. Even if the deal includes answers, the truth about who funded Sentinel, who gave the orders, who's really responsible for your unit's deaths. She didn't respond. I thought so, the voice continued. Meet me. 1 hour. Federal Plaza. North entrance. Come alone. You expect me to walk into a trap? I expect you to be smart enough to know that a public location surrounded by cameras is the safest place for both of us. The line went dead. Mara lowered the phone slowly. What did they say? Walsh asked. They want to meet. Federal Plaza, 1 hour. Kane shook his head. Absolutely not. It's an ambush. Maybe. Or maybe they're as trapped as we are. They can't kill me publicly. Not after that broadcast. Too many people watching. Walsh considered. Federal Plaza is one of the most secure locations in the city. Cameras everywhere. Federal agents, security checkpoints. Which means if something happens, we'll have witnesses and evidence. Or you'll be dead before anyone can intervene. Mara met her eyes. I'm going. Then we're going with you. They said come alone. And you believe them? Kane said. Mara, these people have killed dozens to protect their secrets. They won't hesitate to kill you. I know, but this might be our only chance to identify them, to get the proof we need. Hawthorne's voice came through the speaker. I can have a tactical team in position, overwatch, hidden. They won't know we're there. Mara nodded. Do it. They spent the next 45 minutes preparing. Mara wore a wire, a tracker in her shoe, a panic button in her pocket. Kane went over contingencies, backup plans, extraction routes. If anything feels wrong, he said, hit the button. We'll be there in seconds. How many seconds? Enough. Not reassuring, but it would have to do. The young agent provided them with a van, unmarked, clean plates. They drove toward Federal Plaza in a convoy. Mara in the lead vehicle with Walsh, Kane following in a tactical van with a 5-person team, 2 more units flanking from parallel streets. The plaza came into view at 11:47 p.m. open space. Modern architecture, surveillance cameras on every corner. Even at this hour, people moved through it. Late workers, security guards, a few homeless individuals sleeping on benches. Public, visible, exactly as promised. Mara stepped out of the van at 11:58 p.m. Walsh grabbed her wrist. You don't have to do this. Yes, I do. Why? Mara looked at her. Because 4 years ago I ran, I hid, I let fear control me. I'm not doing that anymore. Walsh released her. Be careful. Always am. Mara walked toward the north entrance. Her footsteps echoed on the concrete. She scanned faces, looking for threats, but everyone seemed absorbed in their own business. At exactly midnight, a figure approached from the shadows near a fountain. Male, mid-50s, expensive suit, silver hair, confident stride. The kind of man who'd spent his life in rooms where decisions were made and lives were traded. Mara's breath caught. She recognized him from news coverage, congressional hearings, presidential briefings, standing beside generals and senators. Deputy Secretary of Defense, Lawrence Merrick. He stopped 10 feet away, hands visible, no weapon, just a man in a suit. But power radiated from him like heat. Miss Holt, he said, thank you for coming. Mara's mind raced. Merrick, one of the most powerful people in the Defense Department, access to classified operations, authority over military contracts, oversight of private contractors like Sentinel. You funded them, she said. I facilitated certain arrangements. There's a difference. Not to the people who died. Merrick's expression didn't change. No guilt, no regret, just calculation. War requires difficult choices, unpleasant alliances. Your unit was collateral damage in a much larger operation. They were people. They were soldiers. They understood the risks. Mara's hands clenched. You sold them out for money. I secured funding for operations that kept this country safe. Sentinel provided services the military couldn't officially authorize. Black ops, targeted eliminations, intelligence gathering in hostile territories, services that saved countless American lives. By taking others, yes. No hesitation, no shame. That's how the world works, Ms. Holt. Someone always pays the price. Your unit paid it so others didn't have to. That's the trade. You're insane. I'm pragmatic. Merrick stepped closer. His voice dropped, intimate, like they were discussing something trivial. And I'm offering you a choice. Walk away. Disappear. I'll make sure you're financially comfortable, protected. A new identity. A new life. You'll never have to work again. Never have to look over your shoulder. In exchange for my silence. In exchange for understanding that some secrets protect more than they harm. The truth about Sentinel would destabilize defense contracts worth hundreds of billions. It would expose covert operations in 6 countries. It would compromise national security. Mara stared at him. This man had ordered the death of her unit, had covered it up for years, had killed witnesses to protect himself, and he genuinely believed he was justified. No, she said. Merrick sighed like he'd expected the answer but still found it disappointing. I was afraid you'd say that. He pulled his hand from his pocket. Not a weapon, a phone. He showed her the screen, a live video feed, the safe house where the young agent had helped them. Flames poured from the windows. Fire trucks surrounded it, emergency crews running. Mara's stomach dropped. What did you do? What did... Tied up loose ends. That agent was the only person who could place you at that location tonight. Now he can't. You killed him. I eliminated a witness, just like I've eliminated all the others. Merrick pocketed the phone. And if you don't walk away right now, I'll eliminate everyone you've ever cared about. The Admiral, Agent Kane, Director Walsh, your teammates' families, everyone. You can't. There are cameras everywhere, witnesses, people watching. Are there? Merrick gestured around the plaza. Look closer. Mara did. The people she'd seen earlier were gone. The workers, the security guards. Even the homeless individuals had vanished. The plaza was completely empty except for the 2 of them. I control more than you realize, Merrick said quietly. I can clear a city block with 1 phone call. I can erase surveillance footage with another. I can make you disappear so thoroughly that no one will ever know you existed. He stepped closer, close enough that Mara could see the coldness in his eyes, the absolute certainty. So I'll ask one more time. Walk away, live, or stay and watch everyone you care about die. Mara's hand moved toward the panic button in her pocket. Merrick held up a small device. A jammer, red light blinking. Your wire is dead. Your tracker isn't transmitting. Your backup can't hear you, can't find you. He leaned in, voice barely a whisper. You're alone. Just like you were in Helmand. Just like you've always been. Mara's mind raced. She needed time, needed to keep him talking, needed to figure out. Wait. She looked past Merrick, the cameras. Still operational, red lights blinking on every corner. He'd cleared the people, but not the surveillance systems. Couldn't, without raising immediate flags with federal security. Those cameras fed to servers he couldn't control. Not quickly enough. Why tell me all this, she asked, voice steady. Why not just kill me? Because despite everything, I respect what you've done. You survived against impossible odds. You exposed a corrupt organization. You fought for justice. He paused. But justice is a luxury, and in the real world, luxuries get people killed. So you're going to kill me anyway. Only if you force me to. If you walk away right now, this ends. You disappear. I go back to my work. The world keeps turning, and my unit's deaths mean nothing. Their deaths already meant nothing. They died for a contractor's profit margin. At least my version gives their sacrifice some purpose. Mara looked at him. Really looked. Saw the man who'd sent 11 people to their deaths and slept soundly afterward. who'd killed witnesses and called it pragmatism, who stood here offering her money like that could erase what he'd done. And she understood. He wasn't scared of her. He was scared of what she represented. Proof that the system could be challenged, that the powerful could be held accountable, that one person refusing to stay silent could bring down empires. "You're right about one thing," she said. "I am alone. I've been alone since Helmand, running, hiding, trying to forget." Merrick nodded, thinking he'd won. "But you know what I learned?" Mara continued. "Being alone doesn't mean being powerless. It means no one can use the people I love against me. No one can threaten what I've already lost." She pulled out her phone, not to call for help, to show him the screen, her broadcast. Still live, still streaming, the entire conversation recorded and uploading in real time to multiple servers, 3 million viewers. Merrick's face went white. "That's impossible, I jammed." "You jammed the wire, the tracker, short-range frequencies." Mara smiled. "You didn't jam cellular data, different bandwidth. And my phone's been streaming to a private server since before I arrived." She turned the phone so he could see the viewer count. 5 million now, 7 million. Every word you said, every confession, every threat. The world just watched you admit to murdering federal witnesses and orchestrating a military massacre. Merrick's hand moved to his pocket, going for a weapon. But before he could draw it, red laser dots appeared on his chest. 10 of them. 20. From rooftops. Windows. Concealed positions all around the plaza. Kane's voice echoed across the empty space, amplified by speakers. "Lawrence Merrick, don't move. You're surrounded." Federal agents poured into the plaza from every direction. SWAT teams, tactical units, weapons trained on Merrick from every angle. He stood frozen, hand still in his pocket, face twisted with pure hatred. "You stupid girl," he hissed. "You have no idea what you've done. The operations I oversee, the lives that depend on them. You've just compromised national security." "No," Mara said quietly. "I've exposed a criminal. There's a difference." 2 agents grabbed Merrick, yanking his hands behind his back. He didn't resist, just stared at Mara with venom. "This isn't over. I have connections, lawyers, friends in every branch of government. I'll be out by morning." Walsh appeared beside Mara, badge in hand. "I doubt that. The Attorney General just issued a warrant for your arrest. The President has been briefed, and Congress is calling for your immediate removal and prosecution." She held up her own phone. The news coverage was everywhere, Merrick's confession trending on every platform, his face plastered across every screen. "You're done," Walsh said, "completely." They dragged Merrick away. He shouted the entire time, making threats, demanding lawyers, insisting this was a mistake. No one listened. Kane approached Mara, face concerned. "You okay?" She nodded, legs shaking now that the adrenaline was fading. "The young agent. The fire. Did he—" "Safe," Kane said immediately. "We evacuated him before Merrick's people got there. The fire was real, but the house was empty. We let Merrick think he'd succeeded." Relief flooded through her. "So it was all a trap. Your idea worked. We needed him to confess, needed him to feel secure enough to talk. And he did." Mara sank onto a nearby bench, exhaustion crashing over her. "Is it really over now?" Walsh sat beside her. "Merrick's arrest triggered everything. 2 other officials just resigned. The FBI is raiding 4 different locations. Sentinel's entire financial network is being seized. Every contract, every payment, every dirty deal is coming to light. What about the families, the people who lost someone? They're being contacted, given the truth. And the compensation fund is being established from Sentinel's seized assets. It won't bring anyone back, but it's something." Mara closed her eyes. Garrett, Silva, Torres, Martinez, Lieutenant Pierce, all of them could finally rest. Their families would have answers. Their deaths would mean something. "There's more," Kane said. He handed her an envelope. "This came through official channels an hour ago." Inside was a letter, presidential seal, signed by the Commander-in-Chief herself. "Ms. Holt, on behalf of the United States of America, I extend our deepest apologies for the injustices you and your unit suffered. Your courage in exposing this corruption has upheld the values we claim to defend. Effective immediately, your military record is being corrected. Your unit's deaths are being reclassified as casualties of criminal conspiracy. They will receive full military honors. You are hereby offered reinstatement to active duty with the rank of Chief Petty Officer. Should you decline, you will receive full veteran benefits, a Presidential Medal of Freedom, and our nation's eternal gratitude. What you've done will save countless lives. Thank you for your service. Mara's hands trembled as she refolded the letter. I don't want a medal. I know, Walsh said gently, but you earned one anyway. They sat in silence for a moment. The plaza slowly filling with federal agents, forensic teams, journalists kept at a distance by security barriers. Mara's phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number, but different from before. We're proud of you, Holt. Unit 13. She stared at it. The message was impossible. Her unit was dead. But somehow, seeing those words made something inside her loosen, like a weight she'd been carrying finally lifted. What will you do now? Kane asked. Mara looked up at the night sky, at the buildings lit against the darkness, at the city that had tried to break her and failed. I don't know yet, she said, but for the first time in 4 years, I get to decide. 3 months later, Mara stood at Arlington National Cemetery. Early morning, mist still clinging to the ground, rows of white headstones stretched in every direction. She walked to a specific section, newly placed markers, fresh flowers already laid by families who'd waited years for this moment. Garrett, Silva, Torres, Martinez, Lieutenant Pierce, her unit. Finally acknowledged, finally honored with the truth. She knelt at each grave, placing her own flowers. White roses. She spoke quietly to people who couldn't answer, told them everything. About Merrick's arrest, the trials, the convictions, justice finally served. I kept my promise, she whispered at the last grave. Nobody forgot you, not anymore. Behind her, footsteps approached. She turned. Marcus stood there in full dress uniform, walking without a cane now, recovery complete. He saluted the graves, then looked at Mara. They'd be proud of you. I hope so. I know so. What you did took more courage than any combat operation. He gestured to a bench nearby. Walk with me? They moved through the cemetery together, past hundreds of graves, thousands of names, each one a story, a life, a sacrifice. I heard you turned down the reinstatement, Marcus said. I did. Any regrets? No, I gave the military 8 years, lost people I loved. I need to figure out who I am when I'm not running or fighting or hiding. And who's that? Mara smiled slightly. Still figuring it out. But I'm teaching now, combat medicine, Walter Reed Medical Center, training the next generation of medics. So they're prepared. So they know their lives matter, that they're not expendable, that if something happens, someone will fight for the truth. Marcus nodded. That's important work. It's something. What about you? Congressional Oversight Committee, new legislation on military contractors, making sure Sentinel never happens again. He paused. We want you involved, your testimony, your perspective, your voice. Mara looked at him. You think my voice matters now? It always mattered. People just weren't listening. Now they are. They reached the cemetery entrance. Beyond the gates, the city stretched out, life continuing, people moving forward. There's something else, Marcus said. He handed her a folder. New case. 3 soldiers died in a training accident overseas, but the details don't add up. The families are asking questions. The military is stonewalling. Mara opened the folder. Photos, reports, inconsistencies jumping out immediately. Why are you showing me this? Because someone needs to look into it. Someone who knows what cover-ups look like. Someone who won't back down when the pressure comes. I'm not an investigator. No, you're something better. You're someone who refuses to let injustice stand. Marcus met her eyes. Will you look into it? Mara stared at the folder. At more faces, more lives, more families waiting for truth. She could say no, could walk away, could live the quiet life she'd dreamed about during 4 years of hiding. But quiet wasn't who she was anymore. I'll look into it, she said. Marcus smiled. Good. Because the world needs people like you. People who fight even when it's hard, even when it's dangerous, even when everyone tells them to stop. He left. Mara stood at the cemetery gates, folder in hand, watching the sun rise over the city. Her phone buzzed, a message from Kane. Coffee? Have something to discuss. She smiled and typed back. Be there in 20. Because this was who she was now. Not invisible, not silent, not running. She was Mara Holt, combat medic, survivor, truth teller. The quiet woman everyone overlooked had become someone impossible to ignore. And she was done apologizing for it. She walked toward her car, head high, shoulders back, the morning sun warm on her face. Behind her, the graves stood in neat rows, silent witnesses, permanent reminders. But ahead was something else, something she'd thought she'd lost 4 years ago, a future, a purpose, a reason to keep fighting, not because she had to, but because she chose to. And choice, she'd learned, was the most powerful weapon of all. Mara drove away from the cemetery, ready for whatever came next, because the fight never really ended. Injustice didn't disappear because one corrupt official got arrested. Truth didn't prevail just because one conspiracy was exposed. But as long as people like her refused to stay silent, refused to look away, refused to accept easy lies, the fight was winnable, one case at a time, one truth at a time, one life at a time. And Mara was just getting started. The end.